Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Cut to the Chase Sports Podcast. We're bringing unique insight and analysis covering all your favorite sports from the collegiate and professional levels. I'm your host, Chase Johnson, joined by my trio, Brady. What's going on?
Oh, not too much is going on. Just ready to talk about some more football like usual, and get this thing rolling. And I'm sure you guys are too.
Yes, we do. We love football here at the Cut the Chase Sports Podcast, along with some other sports. But, man, we also got Matt down there, too. What's up, Matt?
What's going on, boys? A little tired today, but we're powering through, right? We got a show to do, so let's get her done. Give some entertainment to the people.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And as we say, as Matt says, we're on them. So,
We're
without
on them.
further
Here they
ado,
come.
the best player on every NFL team. Here we go. Start off with the NFC East. We'll let Brady take it away.
All right, so NFC East. I'll start with the Dallas Cowboys. My pick is going to be Zach Martin, offensive guard. This one's tough. This one's between Micah Parsons, and Zach Martin, and maybe CeeDee Lamb for some of you guys, but I think it's really a two-man, and maybe Zeke and Dak if you want to say it, but I'm going Zach Martin. I just think his impact for the team has been ginormous. I think he's been a top three offensive guard pretty much his whole career in the league, and I think he's made a huge impact in Dallas. Now, Micah Parsons, this is a tough one. I didn't go his way just because he hasn't played nearly as long, and I haven't seen quite as much from him as Zach. But we all know Micah could be one of the best players in the near future. Switching over to Philly, I went with AJ Brown. I just think he's going to have a huge impact this year, open up the passing game even more, and is one of the top maybe 10 wide receivers in the league. Switching over to Washington, I have Terry McLaurin. I thought this one was pretty easy. He's definitely been their best player the past few years. One of the best receivers in the league, top 10, I would say. Just a great route runner, great hands, and everyone loves Terry. And then I'm going over the New York Giants. This one's tough. I don't think there's a true top. I don't even know if they have a top 50 player in the league. To be quite honest with you.
Yeah.
But who I'm going with is a guy that has not had quite the career we thought he would, and that's Saquon Barkley. Obviously, was one of the top running backs picked I've seen since I've watched the draft. He went at number 2 overall. Very explosive, definitely a big play guy, but just hasn't put up quite the production that we've expected maybe. But still, it was a tough one because the Giants just don't have too much star power. So I'm still going to go with Saquon Barkley for the potential he brings.
Yep. So what I'd say with that, like I completely understand the Zach Martin thing, and now I think about it, I'd probably agree with you on picking Zach Martin. He's been that mainstay at guard for so many years for the Dallas Cowboys. Has been a consistent Pro Bowler, All Pro, and everything you'd ask for in the book. And when you think about weighing these lists and all that, you can see like potential stuff going in the future. Sometimes guys try to stay away from rookies and all that stuff, or guys going into their sophomore year in the NFL because they haven't proven it again and again and again. So I understand where all that's coming from. The way that I look at some of the impact and all that stuff. Micah Parsons' impact last year for the Dallas Cowboys was insane. I mean, they could line him up everywhere. The pass rush, they could line him up sometimes inside, line him up the linebacker. I mean, it was crazy how they were able to move him around the field inside the box, and his versatility. Obviously, we've known that since Penn State and all. So, I mean, I can't really argue what the Zach Martin thing was. The rest of the list, AJ Brown couldn't. That would be my pick as well. You have guys like Darius Slay and Fletcher Cox kind of fall off the end and all that stuff. Can't put Jalen Hurts up there, not one bit. But and then Terry, I like the Terry pick and all. Just like I said, we said on a couple episodes in the past that it sucks that he doesn't have any quarterbacks to really throw in the ball. Like Matt said, he's got some shitty quarterbacks throwing the football, and that's just everybody knows that. And I do like that pick. I mean, if Chase Young didn't get hurt, I probably would have picked Chase Young for sure.
Right.
And like the impact that Chase Young had his rookie year. I know that Washington was 7-9. They made the playoffs though, and big part of that was that front four and them getting out and going. And that is led by Chase Young. So, we'll see what he does in his third season. And then the Giants, like Saquon is the flashy pick. Saquon is, he hasn't had a bad career. It hasn't been like terrible. It hasn't been great or anything like we expected, like at the highest level and everything like that. But I kind of went a different route. I said Leonard Williams came over from the Jets to the, to the Giants, same stadium, all that stuff. But I think his interior presence on the D line has been really big. The last year and a half or so for New York. So I think it's going to get even bigger. I think that's one of the bright spots they have from guys they haven't drafted. I mean, they had picks 5 and 7 this year in the 2022 draft and all, and got Evan Neal and Kayvon Thibodeau, which Thibodeau, maybe he ends up being the best player on this team because the Giants with expectations, like you said, they really don't have a top 50 NFL player. The expectations are low. So many of those guys could really make a way up there.
I honestly would hope that either Neal or Thibodeau becomes a top 50 player in the league. Like they don't have to do all they have to do is be as advertised, especially Thibodeau. Like he was supposed to be the number 1 pick. Yeah. Really didn't have the production we were maybe expecting this year at Oregon. But still went high due to the fact that he's so explosive at the position. And then Evan Neal is just a freak. I think he has all the makings to be one of the best tackles in the league. So they do have young bright spots. But I just ended up and Leonard Williams would have been a great pick too. Judging by the fact that neither of them have separated themselves from the other. This isn't a team that's tough to pick because of because of how good it is. It's because of the shortcomings and there's not a ton of players to choose from really. So that's the only reason I went with Saquon here.
Exactly. Matt, you got any thoughts?
Yeah, I agree about the Saquon pick. I mean, you're picking the shitbag basically from the Giants. I mean, what shitbag do you want to go with? You know what I mean? They all suck. So you're picking a terrible player either way. It's not necessarily a terrible player, but nobody rises to is the cream of the crop, Brady was saying. Also, Zach Martin and Micah Parsons, I think, would be really tough to pick. I mean, Micah Parsons is one of the most versatile players maybe we've ever seen. Now, he only won a year, but one of the most versatile defenders maybe of all time in just that one season. Now, he's got to do it consistently, right, to become whatever potential he can to reach whatever potential he has and become a Hall of Fame type player like Zach Martin. But so I think the Zach Martin pick was a good pick, but also, I mean, Micah Parsons is definitely worthy of it because he's a freaking stud. I mean, just one of the best, most elite defenders we've ever seen for sure. Yeah. So I agree with both of those picks. And then Terry, obviously, that's just obvious right now. With Chase Young being hurt, that's the easy pick. And same with A.J. Brown. I like the A.J. Brown pick as well. So I think that was a good list.
Thank you.
Sure. Yep. And I mean, not really the NFC East, they've been talked about as the NFC least for the longest time. And I mean, I still think they're, obviously not the best, not the best division when it comes to all production and everything. And like the Giants, I mean, they kind of bring down the value of this entire division because they haven't been relevant in 5 years, and that was only a 1-year stand they had. I mean, back then it was like Odell was the easiest one to pick for many years. It was a good 5-year stretch. It was just Odell, but I don't know what the Giants are doing. Washington needs to get a quarterback. Maybe they could have him in there, but I mean, Carson Wentz isn't going to be it. So, I mean, overall, I like this list, and I don't really have any complaints, I would say. But we're going to shift to the AFC East right now. This is a list that, I did right here. So, for the AFC East, I mean, Josh Allen's one. I mean, he's the one for the Bills. Talk about 4,400 yards passing, 36 touchdowns, his rushing ability, over 700 yards, just the plays he's able to make are just game-changing quarterback and all. There's not really a whole lot that needs to be said about Josh Allen in this case. I mean, he's the clear-cut guy for the Bills. I know there's Stephon Diggs and all. Stephon Diggs did help him make that jump from 19 to 20 and go to the AFC title game, but I just Josh Allen in my opinion. But the Patriots, So I think Brady and I were talking about this earlier about Matt Judon potentially. Like I was having thoughts between Matt Judon and honestly Damian Harris off game. And Damian Harris has really came along this past season. He's had some really big rushing games, overall, especially against teams like the Bills and teams in their division and all. But I mean, Matt Judon was really well known when he was in Baltimore. And I mean, he's still well known for his long red sleeves and, batting down passes and all that. So, I mean, he's still very good at that job. And, the Patriots, not like they have a bunch of insane star power like anymore. I mean, obviously it was Brady, Gronk, Stephon Gilmore for a long time, but we settle on Matt Judon now, at least for myself. Miami, this was a little tougher one. I mean, there's obviously Xavier Howard there, but I went with Tyreek Hill. Just Tyreek Hill, the impact he's made on the National Football League and deep ball passing in general has been insane. The way that you use guys. Remember Tyreek Hill when he was a rookie in Kansas City, they used him in the backfield. He ran for like 500 yards his first year in the National Football League, something like that. But the way that, like, honestly, I think he is. I mean, there's not really a bunch of like evolutionary players, I would say, like, because we don't know about it because there's a lot of young guys, but I think Tyreek Hill actually is one of those guys. How you move guys around and move them in the slot, move them outside, can beat you in the slot, beat you outside. Use them as a decoy and motions and just seeing things over the top. But I mean, I got Tyreek Hill. I think his impact, even though we've talked about Tua and Tyreek, how is that going to work? I feel like I've said that. We've talked about that 10 times. Yeah. I still feel like Tyreek Hill is still going to find a way to impact the game, no matter what the circumstance is. And then the Jets, I went Mekhi Becton. I mean, let's think about this. Zach Wilson hasn't proven shit. I don't know who the hell their running back is. I mean, there's Breece Hall and, like other Michael Carter and all that, but those guys obviously aren't the top. And then we haven't seen anything from Garrett Wilson. The receiving core is, that's meh. Marcus May on the other side, safety, not bad at all. But I mean, Mekhi Becton, like we've heard a lot of news. He's slimmed down. He's a big dude regardless, but he's back there protecting Zach Wilson's backside, and I think Zach Wilson is very appreciative of that. So I went Mekhi Becton on this route. But you guys got any thoughts on this list in general?
Yeah, I thought it was a really good list for I think I agree with all four of these picks. Josh Allen, obvious pick. Matt Judon, I would go with as well. Also, I mean, I think Devin McCourty's up there as well.
Yep.
You mentioned somebody, but Tyreek Hill, like you said, definitely the pick for Miami coming in there. Should be able to produce even with Tua. And then Mekhi Becton, I agree. And then to piggyback off that Jets receiving core, yeah, it's one of those, like, it's got a lot of hope for the future. I will say that. I think Elijah Moore, Garrett Wilson develop. I think that could be a deadly duo in the future. But for now, it's definitely Mekhi Becton with his. I think he's the top tackle in the division probably, and only going to be a believe second year player, right? Rookie second or third.
I think third, but
third year. I couldn't. Yeah. But overall, for sure, that's a good. That's my same four.
Okay,
Matt, what do you got?
Yeah, absolutely. I think all four of these are good too. I think after this year, maybe 2 years, Garrett Wilson will be that guy for the Jets. I think he's just that good.
Yeah.
Even a shitty quarterback like Zach Wilson, he's just special, man. Yeah. So I think he might end up being that guy for the Jets. But right now, I think all four of these guys are good picks. So good list.
Yep. I would say there's a bunch of, on this list, there's a bunch of safe options. I'd say this is a very safe option list, but you can't go wrong with it in this, but the AFC East has, it has some good young talent. The Jets have a lot of young talent, I will say. It just depends on how they're going to be developed, how the front office is going to play with it and all. Are they going to trade some guys away? Who's going to be here in a year or two? Who's going to step up? Who's going to, emerge and all? So there's not really a whole lot saying and all, but I will say I don't think he will be, but one of the guys you look out for the Jets coming this year is Carl Lawson. Came from Cincinnati, had some good seasons there. He tore his ACL last year in training camp, but he's coming back. I remember he had like 9 sacks his rookie year for the Bengals, which was a few years back, but he's always been a pretty reliable pass rusher. So I will say with the Jets, like the amount of, I'd say the standards that they have, Garrett Wilson will most likely set that bar. He is, he was obviously the first receiver taken off the board for a reason, and all 3 of those receivers were taken for a great reason, back to back to back. Carl Lawson's a name to watch out for potentially. I don't think he really has a great shot of being that best player, but hey, who knows? We've seen crazier things happen in the NFL. But moving on to the next list, we got the NFC North. So Packers was Aaron Rodgers. It's really not that hard. He's been the back-to-back MVPs, like 89 touchdowns, I don't know, like 7 or 8 interceptions the last 2 years. That's just downright insane. It's going to be interesting seeing how he's going to do without Devontae Adams, the receiving core step-ups of, Christian Watson, the second-round pick, and Alan Lazard and Randall Cobb and Amari Rodgers. So I still think Rodgers will stay as, the best player in, the best player in that division. And I will say Jari Alexander, I mean, he missed like almost all of the season last year. He played in like 4 or 5 games, but I mean, when he's on, he's one of the top corners in the National Football League. So do not forget about Jari Alexander. But I mean, Aaron Rodgers is the obvious and, most go-to pick right there. Vikings, Justin Jefferson. I mean, think about this: 3,000 yards in his first 2 seasons in the NFL. It's an NFL record. 1,600 yards last year, 1,400 his rookie year, 1,600 this past year. That's the definition to just keep building on success and all personal success for him. So, I mean, that really wasn't a hard pick there with Justin Jefferson. I think the sky's the limit for this kid. I mean, think about the last episode. Jaden had him ranked as the number 2 fantasy receiver, and who knows, maybe he might end up being number 1. I have no idea. But I mean, situations wise, you have Cooper Kupp and Justin Jefferson. You go Cooper Kupp just coming off the title. But Justin Jefferson, man, he's a baller. He's so good. I mean, route running ability, sometimes taking top off the defense. He does everything so well, especially when he's in the slot or on the outside in the numbers. And the next guy, Robert Quinn. I could see where people could kind of disagree, but if I'm going just based off of last year, Robert Quinn had a monster season. He had 18, 19 sacks last year. He's right behind TJ Watt. A normal year, that would probably lead the league in sacks. That's over a sack a game in the National Football League. That's a tough thing to accomplish. But I mean, with the Bears and how they're moving forward, you have Justin Fields, who if Justin Fields had a team around him, I would probably be saying Justin Fields. I think we all would be saying Justin Fields. He had a team around him.
I hope he gets one.
Yeah, exactly. You would hope he gets one before his contract's up and everything.
When your college receiving core is 10 times better than your NFL receiving core, it's just going to be rough.
And you have no protection at all. You got David Montgomery in the backfield. It's a nice toy right there. But no line, no receivers. They have a lot of defensive backs. I will say that. I mean, Roquan Smith's pretty good. I got to give credit to Roquan Smith.
Yep.
So I mean, that would probably be like number 2 or 3 for me on that team. But I mean, if I'm going off of last year, Robert Quinn was that guy at production. He was the dude that was producing all the freaking time. And, I would like to see if he can, back up even something close to what he did this past year. Maybe around that 12 to 13 sack range this year would be a really nice follow-up for him, especially being on that team. And then Detroit, it was between a couple players. It was between DeAndre Swift. I mean, I went with him, TJ Hawkinson and Taylor Decker. I mean, we were told before about, maybe an Ohio State bias, but hey, we weren't picking Taylor Decker. That's one thing. But TJ Hawkinson, very good tight end. But I got to go Swift. All right. Swift, they run the offense through him. Jared Goff can't throw the ball for shit. They run in between the tackles. They pass the ball to him. He's really the entire offense until they get a quarterback, until they get a CJ Stroud or a Bryce Young. or just somebody in free agency. Until they get that, I believe it'll be DeAndre Swift. It could be Jamison Williams that by the 2 years from now. It could be Aiden Hutchinson a couple years down the road, but even Jeff Okudah if he stays healthy or whatever. But I mean, we're gonna rock with DeAndre Swift, right now. But any more additional thoughts on the NFC North?
I think that's a great list. The only thing that I might change is Montgomery over
Okay.
Robert Quinn. But like you said, Robert Quinn had a really productive year last year. And I think DeAndre Swift pick, great. I think he's going to have a great year, especially fantasy-wise. I'm really high on him. Rodgers and Jefferson, I feel like we're just no-brainers.
Yeah.
So I think it's perfect. I think it's a great list. It's a lot of good picks there.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, I think Rodgers and Jefferson are obviously the top two guys there.
Yeah.
There's no question about it. Chicago, like you said, there's a couple picks you can go, but Robert Quinn was definitely the best player on the team last year. So, I mean, you could go Roquan Smith or Montgomery, all that, but definitely the right pick. And then DeAndre Swift, that one's a little bit of a tougher pick, but that's probably who I'd go with too. Like you said, Hawkinson and Taylor Decker are also right there. And then, I mean, who knows? Amon-Ra St. Brown or Williams or one of the two young guys could step up. And then, again, like you said, with the future, if they draft a quarterback like CJ or Bryce, like that would help this team a lot, especially since CJ and Bryce have both thrown to Jamison Williams many times.
For sure. And, when you look at, the teams like Detroit and Chicago, like they do have young talent. It's not as a situation like the New York Giants is where it's like, God, like I don't know what to expect with them. But you have like some guys that have potential top 50 in the NFL, like, a couple years down the road. So it's kind of hard to pick which potential hidden gem you want to go with in this case, and if they can get things turned around within the next couple of years and also. Chicago and Detroit were tough ones to pick. With Chicago and Detroit, the picks were basically made off of what production was last year. And, trying to go back to 2020 for Detroit, you had Matt Stafford and you had Kenny Golladay. Those were your guys, and they are gone. So trying to think back that far, but then a consistent and a constant has been DeAndre Swift over the last couple of years. So, I mean, I think rocking with him is good. You can't go wrong with TJ Hawkinson. You can't go wrong with Taylor Decker. He's been a mainstay in the NFL for the last 5+ years or so. And then, like I said, Roquan Smith has had a pretty nice NFL career. And then David Montgomery's he's been quiet. He's been like a quiet, consistent, I would say, even with how bad the Bears line has been. And I think I just want to say something about the Bears real quick. One, we obviously know that. Why the hell did they draft secondary, first round and second round? That is absolutely beyond us. But like they'll quietly win 7 games in a season. Like, does anyone ever notice that they'll quietly win 7 or 8 games? In 2020, they slipped in the playoffs at 8-8 with Mitch.
That was
Nick Foles.
That was hilarious. Like the fact that they were in the playoffs. That was against the Saints, right?
Yeah.
I remember when that Nickelodeon like green stuff or whatever went everywhere with the. On the screen when Michael Thomas scored.
Yep.
The slime machine.
The slime machine, whatever. That was But the Bears, I mean, it's a joke of an organization, but they'll win a couple games a year. They'll sneak in some surprising ones in there.
Yep. And like you think about it, like some of the primetime games they have, I'm kind of going off the rails here. It might be another video, but kind of go off the rails here. Like primetime games they get obviously because they're in Chicago. It's the third largest city in the United States. I mean, they have 3 primetime games in the first 7 weeks. And, I think I'd rather stare at a fucking lamp at the bulb instead of watching the Chicago Bears play a football game. They beat us last year. I can't really talk. They beat us last year, but I didn't watch that game because I had some other stuff going on, mandatory stuff. But like I'm just saying I do not want to watch the Chicago Bears. Yeah. Yep. I don't want to watch the Chicago Bears. Yeah.
I mean, I watch all their games because I want to watch Justin Fields, but then it just makes me mad just seeing the play calls and the fact that 2 receivers are going out for a route and one of them's like Cole Kmet running a corner out and there's two people guarding him, and then the other one's Darnell Mooney, and he's just covered, and there's nothing, anything can happen.
Yeah. Not to mention of the freaking line that's going on with Chicago Bears. So
and yeah, it's rough. The line has to be the worst. They have to have some of the worst tackles in the league.
For sure. Yeah. And we'll see Chicago on the national stage week 2 Sunday Night Football against the Packers. So that'll be fun because Aaron Rodgers actually owns that team. So there you go. That's the NFC North. And we'll go to the other North, AFC. This list is interesting. We also, Burrow or Chase. That's in the description for the show. So Burrow or Chase.
You're not gonna like this one, are you?
I mean, let's think about this. I have a Joe fucking Burrow shirt. I love Joe Burrow. He's a top 5 quarterback. All this, I'll defend him because it's legit stuff. But let's be real. Are we going to Super Bowl this past year, if Jamar Chase isn't on the roster? No.
Nope.
The impact that he made right away, had the greatest rookie season for a wide receiver ever, was Jamar Chase. And I'm not saying that he was like the exact reason we got the Super Bowl, but he was a damn sure and really high on that list for the reasons we got the Super Bowl. I mean, 81 catches, 1455, 13 touchdowns. Jamar Chase, I say he's the best by, obviously we have one spot or whatever, but it's like literally this close. I don't know. It just depends on how you value, positional value and recency and all that stuff. It just kind of depends on that. It's how I would go. I would not have an issue having Joe Burrow on that list. Not one bit. But I just went with Jamar Chase just because of the impact he had on the field and the fact that we made the Super Bowl this year. So, I mean, just the quick turnaround that we were able to make from 4 wins to 10 wins in the Super Bowl. Pittsburgh, Cleveland, TJ Watt, Myles Garrett. It's not really a whole lot needs to be said. Those are the 2 best pass rushers in the National Football League on the edge. TJ Watt, like 22.5 sacks last year. That's ridiculous. Myles Garrett, he's either sacking the quarterback or hitting the guy over the head. I mean, yeah, he's good at what he does. He gets to the quarterback. That's undeniable. He gets to the quarterback. And the Ravens, I would say Lamar Jackson, and on a normal day I would say Lamar Jackson, but me and Brady also had to talk about this.
Yeah.
Justin Tucker. I mean,
I like how you stuck him in there. I completely forgot about him.
Yeah, he's the best. He's the best kicker in the National Football League. I'd say by a very good margin. He's working his way up on the all-time ranks list. He has the longest field goal ever made. I know the crossbar helped him out, but I mean the dude's automatic. And think about this: if you have a kicker, and sometimes your team sputters at the 35 or the 40-yard line, it is a complete cheat code, secret weapon to bring your kicker out on the field when you're at the 41 when it's 4th and 7 and just line up for a 58-yard field goal.
Guaranteed.
So yeah, some of that stuff's guaranteed. Like 55 and innings guaranteed. And I'd even argue 60 and innings guaranteed.
Yeah.
But I mean, just having that ability of having that luxury of Justin Tucker on there, that's huge for Baltimore Ravens. And that's really, I'm not saying that's really what's made them a good team. Overall, they have a great special teams unit. They've had a great special teams unit for the last 10 years or so. But Justin Tucker has won a lot of games, and just the fear of teams trying to change up their game plan so Baltimore doesn't get into scoring position. Scoring position is beyond the 50 for the Baltimore Ravens. Lamar Jackson's running the show. So obviously they can eat clock up whatever offense they decide to run under Greg Roman. But I would, on a normal day, I would say Lamar Jackson is, but Justin Tucker, if we're talking about, positional value, I'm not saying kicker should be top 3 or whatever, but I mean, hey, it needs to be talked about a bit more. I mean, overall, those guys can win you games. Obviously, the offense gets you down there, but Justin Tucker has bailed out that Ravens offense at times when it is, faltered at the 40 or 45-yard line by kicking a 50, 60-yard field goal. Mm-hmm. So that's how I feel about it. What do you guys think about it?
I think this is a really good list, actually. I actually would probably go Joe Burrow with Cincinnati just because I'm in position value quite a bit. But Jamar Chase, probably definitely the most explosive player on the team, but probably the most talented player on the team. Like, it's just such a tough call here. But I'd go Joe just because Well, yes, obviously, if Lamar didn't come, we're not in the Super Bowl. But if Joe Burrow was never, if they still had like Andy Dalton or somebody of his caliber, they're not even close to the Super Bowl. Like no shot. So that's why. And obviously, Joe had a year where he didn't make the Super Bowl, but it was a little different. But
Yeah, it was.
So I'd go Joe, but still Jamar. No problem with Jamar at all. Definitely a great pick. T.J. Watt, easy pick for Pittsburgh there. Myles Garrett, another one where they have a couple other good players, but Myles Garrett's definitely the pick here. I mean, some people might say Nick Chubb, but I'm still going Myles Garrett for sure.
Yeah.
And then Justin Tucker. Like I didn't even think about him because we all made our list. I put Lamar Jackson there, but that's because I never thought of Justin Tucker for some reason, like right before when I was picking. But Justin Tucker, I think he's by far the best kicker in the NFL. I think he's the best kicker of all time. Like I think he's the most skilled, best kicker ever. And it's just because every time I turn a Ravens game on and they're kicking a field goal, they're not missing. Like you just know. And when he kicks it, it's going right through the uprights, right down the middle. So Justin Tucker, he might be the player in the NFL that's the farthest in front of his competition, in my opinion.
I'd say him or probably Aaron Donald. Those are probably two guys I'd say. Yeah.
Those two. Yep. Those two.
Yeah, I think this is a good list as well, but I'd probably lean Burrow over Chase just because he's so capable, man.
I know. Yep.
He's just a winner, and I love Jamar Chase. Really.
Oh yeah.
No, I love Jamar Chase.
Yeah. We know it.
Yeah. Apparently, you actually want him on your fantasy team.
I do want him on my
Somebody else wants him on.
I think I want him too.
But yeah, so I would take Burrow for sure. TJ and Miles are perfect. I hear what you guys are saying about Tucker for sure.
Yeah.
But he is a kicker. You got to understand that he's a kicker. I know that you're saying that they should be a little bit more appreciated, and I get that. They can win games for you a lot of times, especially in the NFL because defenses are so good.
Yeah.
But I'm going to just take Lamar. I think he's the former MVP in the league. He's just so athletic and talented. Mm-hmm. So I'll lean towards Lamar as well.
Yep. You can't go wrong with
right. You can't go wrong with either one, really.
Not at all. And
I understand why you're saying Tucker.
Mm-hmm. And back to the Bengals, man. You guys know I love Joe Burrow. I freaking love Joe Burrow as a quarterback. Just all that, all right. But I don't know. Just that's a really hard one to pick. It's it's like I'm not gonna say it's like picking your favorite kid, but and it's not it's nowhere near close to that. And those guys are not my kid, like what I mean. But it's like it's picking your favorite toy. You know what I'm saying? Like who can do this, who can do that. But man, it's for me it's interchangeable. But man, the things Jamar Chase was able to do last year, it was because of Joe Burrow throwing the ball. But just I would say thing that separates it. They play different positions, but Jamar Chase after the catch. That dude is insane after the catch. He'll take a 5-6 yard hitch route and take it 20 yards downfield. It looks like he's going to get wrapped up maybe a yard after the catch and just takes it 20. Like that's like just, stays low to the ground, just all the other stuff, all the other intangibles, blah, blah, blah. It's insane. But, I would put Joe Burrow on the list sometime. I don't know. It just kind of goes back and forth in my mind because I seem like an indecisive person. But off that topic, we'll throw it to the NFC South and we'll give it to Brady. Go on ahead with this one.
You said NFC South?
Yep, there you go.
Okay. So Tampa Bay, obviously going with Tom Brady here, the GOAT. There's not much else to say here, but it's obviously Tom Brady. Let's be real. He's top 5 quarterback in the NFL, based off of what anyone should be saying. I'd probably put him like top 3, but I think he is by far the GOAT. Extremely accurate, a bigger arm than people give him credit for, and that's just obvious. New Orleans, I'm going with Michael Thomas. I still think Michael Thomas will be one of the best receivers in the league. He's just huge, and he's still just built like a beast. And last time he's played a full season, come on now, he was the best receiver in the league. The dude put up monster numbers, absolute monster. like probably the best receiver season ever, arguably. You could argue that was the best receiver season ever because he broke catch record, had like a ton of yards, and a bunch of touchdowns as well. I mean, you could go Marshawn Lattimore or I guess Alvin Kamara, but he's going to be suspended, obviously. You could go those guys, but I'm going Michael Thomas. And then Atlanta. This one might be somewhat controversial because a lot of people seem to really love A.J. Terrell, their corner. But I'm going Kyle Pitts. I just think he's a better tight end than A.J. Terrell is a corner. I know A.J. Terrell put up really good stats or whatever you want to call them. Like, he had great it's not necessarily stats, but he didn't allow many yards. But I'm not quite buying it. Like, I think he's a really good corner and stuff, but I don't think some people try to put him as this top 3 corner, top 5. I don't quite see that. I see maybe bottom half of the top 10 somewhere. And if he keeps proving it, and if he gets, you got to pick off a few passes. Like, he didn't really get many picks. You've got to at least and more pass breakups. Like, you need to make plays to show that they're just like not, for some reason, not throwing at you. But I know he had a great season, obviously. But Kyle Pitts, he's easily a top 5 tight end in the NFL, in my opinion, in terms of just pure skill. If his quarterbacks can throw him the ball, I think he could easily end up as the best in the league. And then we go to Carolina. I've got Christian McCaffrey. What else can you say? When he was healthy last time he was healthy, one of the best running backs in the league, if not the best, according to some people. And I'm not saying he's the best running back in the league. I don't think he is, but I think he's a really good back, and he's very dynamic, running the ball, receiving the ball. Overall, just best player on the Panthers pretty easily. Not sure who else I'd even consider for that. For Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah. Matt, what's your thoughts on Brady's list?
I think his list is absolutely perfect. I wouldn't change a thing. Straight up. I think if Michael Thomas is healthy, exactly what I'm picking. A.J. Terrell, you're right. A lot of people are really high on him. I'm taking Kyle Pitts for sure.
Me too.
Yep.
What else was I going to say? Oh, yeah, Michael Thomas. Like I said, if he's healthy, 100% him. But another guy you could, I guess, maybe throw in there, Marshawn is really just a lockdown dude as well.
Yeah,
so that's another guy that you could consider. But like I said,
he's my second choice.
There's nothing I would change about this list at all.
Yep, I'd agree too. I mean, Brady, obviously, Michael Thomas, when healthy, yes. Kyle Pitts, yeah. Stop the AJ Terrell thing. I get it, but just look at the stuff with Kyle Pitts. I know he didn't have many touchdowns and all that, but he was completely dominant. And then Christian McCaffrey, normal year. He's not injured at all. He's Christian McCaffrey. He's one of the best fantasy running backs out there, and in general. But yep, this list is spot on. I'd say this is probably the shortest list segment we've had. This will probably be the shortest one we've had in the entire show. But yep, and we'll go to the AFC South. Right here. So I had Derrick Henry for the Titans. I mean, it's obvious. I mean, the dude almost had 1,000 rushing yards in 8 games last year. Getting hurt, coming back in the playoffs. Obviously didn't end the way that he wanted it to. Ended the way I wanted it to. So I'm not wrong with that. But yeah, Derrick Henry, that dude's a monster. 6'3", 250 plus, running at you like a freight train. That's insane. I mean, just imagine being a safety. He just breaks through the tackles untouched, breaks inside the tackle box untouched, and you're just head on with, yeah, exactly. You just get a hold like that type of thing. That's insane. That would just be so scary to run into a freight train, like literally on the tracks of a freight train, and you're about to get ran over, flattened like a pancake. It's, like the offensive lineman, Matt, the pancakes and all that stuff. That's at least want to get a few a game and all, right?
Yeah, but it's different from there because offensive line, you guys are already right here. So when you're hitting, it's not as much of a collision because you're so close. Mm-hmm. You got Henry and a safety coming downhill going full speed. They're both getting a 5 or 10 yard head start. Mm-hmm. Bam! It's like a train. So it's a lot harder of a collision for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yep. End up like Flat Stanley right there, man. Thinking to throw back to that book. But Jonathan Taylor for the Colts. I mean, I can get I think there's a couple guys in there. Quentin Nelson, Shaquille Leonard. Anyone know who Shaquille Leonard is now? I mean,
I
Darius.
do. Yeah. Did you guys hear about that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Like, I mean,
Shit, why didn't you just tell us that at the beginning of your career, bro?
Yeah,
we would have all
exactly.
just fucking
I
said
know.
it then.
Yeah, we would have said it.
He sounds so fucking. It's just so weird that he's saying it now. Like, why the fuck?
Yeah,
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Waited like 3 or 4 years to say it. Like,
Yeah.
I mean,
it doesn't make any sense why he had to.
I'm still calling him. I'm calling him Darius.
Yeah, I'm calling him
still
Darius.
calling him Darius.
We are. I'm calling him Darius. To cut the chase, I'm calling him Darius. All right, but number 53 for the Colts is a really good linebacker, and I would say he'd make a very good argument to be on that list. That dude's a fucking ball hog. But Jonathan Taylor, what he did last year, 1,800 yards, 18 touchdowns, stuff out of the backfield, had like 2 or 3 receiving touchdowns on like 40 catches. He's think about the stuff he did at Wisconsin. He basically duplicated in the National Football League last year in year 2. So,
yeah.
I think Jonathan Taylor should be on. He's my number 1, and then Brandon Cooks. Like, I mean, think about this. Houston and Jacksonville are really hard ones to pick. All right, because this is like the Giants. These guys are like these teams. Like going into this year, they look really bad. They were really bad the last couple of years, but Brandon Cooks, one of the only bright spots on that team. I think I'm low-key just going that with the name. I've done some of the dive and stuff like that in him. He's had some good stats. He's always been consistent everywhere he goes in the National Football League because remember, he's been bounced around like crazy. Saints, Rams, Patriots, somewhere else, I believe, in between, and in Houston. I mean, he's been everywhere you could imagine in the National Football League, and he is just produce. So that's why I'm going with Brandon Cooks. And then, Josh Allen. The thing is with I think Brady kind of persuaded me with this for Josh Allen. I was going to say James Robinson, but with the running back by committee they're going to run and all the other things that are going to be involved, there's no telling what Jacksonville's going to do. I mean, James Robinson had a fantastic rookie season. If anyone had him in fantasy or picked him up off the waiver wire in 2020, what a blessing to your team. But he had 2 touchdowns last year against Cincinnati, and I thought they'd be the same ground and pound team. That they've tried to be for the last couple of years. But, I mean, from the fact that they're going out getting receivers and all that stuff, and they obviously have Trevor Lawrence, number 1 pick from last year, they're throwing the football, and they're probably going to share the that running back room and all. So, James Robinson out, Josh Allen in. He's produced. Got really no complaints on him. We'll see how his career progresses forward and all. Definitely not Trayvon Walker. I mean, that was one of the biggest reaches in the National Football League draft this year, but we'll see how that plays out. What do you guys think about this list? Because I could see, some potential, differences on this.
I mean, the first 2 for sure are. That's it. I mean, it just the Texans and the Jaguars, they just suck so bad that it's just hard to pick a guy. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
I think Brandon Cooks is probably who I would have went with for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's going to end up being Trevor Lawrence this year. I think he's going to end up taking not like a huge jump, but a solidifying himself as a franchise quarterback jump this year. You get what I'm saying? Like he's going to make get into the top 15-ish range of quarterbacks in the league, maybe even higher, depends. So I think Josh Allen right now, having him there, that pick right now is fine. But I think at the end of the year, if we come back and like revisit this video or revisit this list, we're going to end up saying, seeing where we were right and where we were wrong, I think we're going to end up saying it's going to be Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah.
So that's the way I would approach the South for sure.
Okay. All right. Yep. Can't complain about that. And before I get to you, Brady, like you think about it, the National Football League, we have about 14 quarterbacks that I'd say, are proven. I'd say you have 7 or 8 in the elite category, 6 of them that are like, good starters, I would say. There's a lot of, always in the National Football League, there's going to be a lot of unproven guys. It's going to be movement here, movement there. There's about 18 to 25 guys that are trying to, bide for a starting job, trying to get a shot here or there. And a bunch of young guys in the National Football League, a lot of young quarterbacks, especially in the AFC, that are trying to make their way and make that jump that, some guys have made. Trevor Lawrence is one of them. Number 1 pick for a reason, coming out of Clemson. So You know, they obviously went out receiving core. They might have they overpaid for, but possibly the wrong guy. I mean, you've seen some guys, like, this is a bad signing, and they end up working out in that offense well. They overpaid for Christian Kirk, no doubt about it. But I mean, maybe he works out in Jacksonville. I have no idea what's going to happen there. They had him, LaVisca Chenault, tight ends in general. So I mean, I think I could see Trevor Lawrence becoming the best player on that team. I don't know how high he's going to end up being on the quarterbacks list this year. It's a different list. But when it comes to players, I could see Trevor Lawrence making that jump here this year or next year to being the best player on the Jaguars. Like I said with the Giants, not a hard thing to do on some of these teams to become the best player on your team. But I mean, like I said, the 2022 season's about six weeks away. Wow. Actually, yeah, it's 6 weeks away. Holy shit. That's crazy. The realization right there. But yeah, Brady, what do you got on this?
So I have 3 out of the 4 the exact same. And then but Derrick Henry, obvious pick. That's probably the most obvious. I mean, that might be the most obvious pick on here, honestly. Like other than maybe Patrick Mahomes, which obviously Matt is gonna pick for the Chiefs.
Yeah.
Derrick Henry is by far the best.
Are you crazy? I'm picking McCole Hardman, man. What are you talking about?
Mecole Hardman.
But then I actually disagree with the Indianapolis pick, and it's a great pick. Jonathan Taylor's a great player.
And I know where you're going with this one.
But I think they have the best offensive lineman maybe in the NFL with Quentin Nelson.
Yeah.
So
they definitely do. Yeah.
I mean, that's the only reason. It's so close. Jonathan Taylor's a great player. Same with Shaquille Leonard or whatever his name is. But fine pick. Like, I'm not going to disagree with that completely.
Yeah.
I mean, Jonathan Taylor was the best player last year, or running back last year, stats wise. Brandon Cooks, I'm going to go with him too. I mean, there's no good pick here. It's another team with no top 50 player at all.
Mm-hmm.
And then Josh Allen is my pick for Jacksonville again. They suck. Maybe it'll be Trevor Lawrence after this year. I'm not completely sold that it will be, to be quite honest with you, though. Like I'm just not. I think Trevor Lawrence has the potential and all, like everyone says, but I don't know what changed. Like, I know they got Christian Kirk, but I don't think that's a big upgrade from what they had last year. I think something has to change. Usually when QBs take a big jump, something changed. Like Josh Allen. He actually was viewed as not a good quarterback at the beginning of his career.
Yep.
And then they got Stephon Diggs, and boom, he's really good.
Exactly.
Something just has to click. And nothing really, to me, changed. Like, I don't care about Travis Etienne. Like, he's his college teammate and all, but I don't think he's going to be some kind of game-changing receiver for Trevor like some people think. But
I think it matters.
Yeah, it matters. It does, but I just don't think.
I mean, he might. I'm with you that he's not going to be like some superstar player,
right?
Yeah. I do think adding Kirk and adding Travis does matter. So I think. I don't want to cut you off or anything, but I do think that they've added some weapons to where Trevor can succeed. And like I said, I think he's going to take a step, not like a major. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that's what I just wanted to get that across before you continue to go. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think he'll be better than last year. I think
100%, right,
because he's evolved as a more of a experienced player. But yeah, I mean, overall, in terms of your list, good list, exact guys I'd put, except Jonathan Taylor, but it's tough.
I mean,
he'd be my second option.
Yep. And I mean, that's there's not really much arguing on this list, especially Quentin Nelson. Like you can put him in wherever and all, but then you guys won't wait to see these AFC South picks because the Colts, the Titans, and the bottom two teams, I think they're gonna go even further down. But you can't wait to see those records on this. But if you guys thought that we were gonna go an entire show about letting Matt have a list or two, you thought wrong because Matt's got the NFC West right here. So take it away, Matt. Here we go.
We're on. All right, so we're starting the NFC. So a lot of people, most people are going to say Aaron Donald. I'm definitely saying Aaron Donald, no doubt. I think he's one of the top 2 or 3 defensive players ever, not just now, ever.
Yep.
I mean, you got Lawrence Taylor and probably Dion. That's it. Other than those two, I think Aaron Donald's one of the best. Is just a monster. A lot of people might want to say Kupp as well. He's up there on maybe 90% of the teams. Cooper would be the best player, but I'm taking Aaron Donald. I mean, it just goes out saying he's a monster.
Yep.
I'll take DeAndre Hopkins from the Cardinals. Thought about Kyler Murray. We actually talked about it before the show.
Yep.
Decided to go with D-Hop. I mean, he's been a productive receiver for I don't know how long. He's always mentioned in that elite group of, 5-10 receivers.
Yep.
That is just one of the best in the league. So I'm going with DeAndre Hopkins. 49ers, this was a tough one. Trent Williams, Kittle, Debo. I mean, a lot of really, 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 really good players for the 49ers. I ended up going with Nick Bosa, though. I think he's one of the best pure pass rushers in the league. I mean, you got some really – I mean, the other Bosa brother obviously is a beast, Khalil Mack, guys like that too. But if you're telling me to pick one just skilled, pure pass-rushing player, you're hard-pressed to find anybody better than Nick Bosa. So I'm taking Nick Bosa. Then with Seattle, that's a shit show out there now with no Russell Wilson too. I think DK is just the obvious pick. Big, physical, strong receiver. Now, you might say at the end of the year, we might end up saying somebody else because their quarterbacks are going to suck so bad that they might not be – he might not have the production.
Exactly.
He might not have the production that he's been having, but I'm taking DK. Yep. So there's your NFC West right there.
Yep. Man, I hope CJ Stroud goes to the –
Me too. That would be awesome. That'd be so awesome. Just be like somewhere to slide right in where, he's going to – he's always going to go to a shitty team because he's going to be the number one pick. Yeah, right. Exactly. But at least he's walking into somewhere with a freaking number one certified stud at receiver.
And Tyler
Lockett. That would be awesome.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, he's got two. Now the offensive line sucks, but still, at least he's got two receivers. Right. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Seattle doesn't have their head in their ass like Chicago does. All right. Let's just think about it. All right. Like when you think about when it comes to CJ Stroud and Bryce Young when they come into the league next year, say Seattle and Detroit are the two teams. All right. So those are the two teams that those guys go to. CJ Stroud goes to Seattle, Bryce Young goes to Detroit. They're gonna walk into a better situation than what it was a year before.
I hope they walk. I hope. Well, obviously, sure, Bryce Young can succeed. I don't care. I don't hate him or anything. But obviously, we want CJ to succeed. But so that's why we're talking about him. Yeah, but exactly. Like you just said, Detroit, I'd be completely fine with.
Yeah.
Put them in those situations because Detroit's got some young receivers on the rise, and then Seattle's got proven receivers. And DK is staying for good. He just got that huge extension an hour before the show.
What a rich man he is now.
He's a rich man, so we got him there. Seattle's got if they had a good quarterback, man, their offense, like we saw with Russell Wilson, could be good. I mean, could be really good. Exactly. So in terms of this list, good pick with Aaron Donald. I mean, best player in the NFL. DeAndre Hopkins, I think that's definitely my pick there as well. Yep. Nick Bosa, man, that one's tough. Like you said, I don't know, him, Trent Williams, and Kittle, and even Debo. I'd maybe lean Trent Williams just in terms of I think he's the best offensive tackle in the NFL. But you can't go wrong with Nick Bosa, as you said. In terms of just defensive end, him and Myles Garrett are the two best in the NFL.
Yeah, 100%.
You're just talking about defensive ends. You're not counting those outside backing edge rusher guys. Nick Bosa, great player. Him and Joey Bosa. It's crazy that him and Joey Bosa are both as good as they are coming from the same family. Yeah. I really want to know what they were fed. It's unbelievable. I don't know how that happens.
That's insane, though.
and then DK Metcalf's the pick for Seattle. I think sometimes he's overhated. People will say that some random receiver that's a wide receiver 3 on some random team is better than him. Which isn't true. Just because he doesn't run crisp routes, perfect routes, which is a big thing for receivers, but he makes up for it with the fact that he's 6'2", 6'3", and runs a 4.3, and has pretty solid hands and is just a monster. Production proves it. He's a great deep ball receiver. He's super scary, and I think he plays with a lot of energy.
Yeah,
so
he does.
He's the pick for Seattle for sure. And overall, good list.
Yep, I'd agree with that. I definitely agree with 3 of the 4. And I'm not saying I disagree with the Nick Bosa thing. It's just the fact the Niners have so many guys. I mean, you got, I would lean Trent Williams, I'd say. I mean, the Pro Football Focus grade of 99. It's insane. Pro Football Focus is a really tough scale to grade on and all that stuff. And that's, most people would look at that scale and be like, okay, we'll grade guys off this and that. But I mean, 99 on that, I mean, just Trent Williams, since he's been a Niner, he's been absolutely insane. You got him, like I said, Kittle, top few tight end in the National Football League. Nick Bosa, true defensive end, top 2 or 3 in the National Football League. Debo, they just use him around everywhere. I wouldn't say he's like top of his class, but just the impact of him and how they utilize him in all these different spots is big. And then just a couple of guys throughout, and I agree with the DK Metcalf, DeAndre Hopkins, and all, but just a couple of guys to maybe throw out there. I'm not saying that Matt Stafford is going to ever pass Aaron Donald. No one's going to ever pass Aaron Donald. Just something I've thought of for a second. I'm like, they had almost that exact same team for a good 2 years until Matt Stafford came there and they got over the hump. I mean, that comes into positional value. You take positional value into terms and all, but Aaron Donald is, I mean, he's the greatest defensive tackle. I think he might be the best defensive tackle of all time. I mean, we're talking about greats with Reggie White and Bruce Smith, but I mean, we're seeing it right before our eyes. And then, the Niners, we named a couple of guys, but Seattle, I will say, keep an eye on this. Like you said, if DK Metcalf ends up not having a great season and all that stuff, watch out for Quandre Diggs, their safety. He's been,
that's a good one too.
He's been up there he's been up there the last couple of years, just hasn't really, had his opportunity to, I mean, not say opportunity, but just like had the shine that a guy like Russell Wilson had, or a guy like DK's had over their time in Seattle. So I also look out for Quandre Diggs. So that's one of those right there. But from the NFC West to the AFC West, which is the most interesting division in the National Football League. Here we go.
Best quarterback division of all time.
Yes.
Patrick Mahomes for sure. I think he's the best quarterback on the planet. Travis Kelce, he's the best at his position too, a monster. But I mean, those are really the only two you could even throw in here. But just Patrick Mahomes, it goes without saying, he's the best. For the Raiders, I'm taking Devontae Adams. He's been the best receiver other than Cooper Kupp last year. I mean, just overall, the past 2 or 3 years, one of the best receivers in the league. Now it's going to be different now with Derek Carr. How can he adjust? Other than with Aaron Rodgers, but their past, relationship, I think they'll have a good rapport this year. So I think he's going to still have a very productive season. So I'm keeping Devontae Adams there. Justin Herbert, top 5 quarterback. I think probably the second best arm in football behind Josh Allen. Just a freaking tank, a cannon. I think the Chargers are going to win this division this year because I just think their defense has gotten so much better. So I'm very high on Justin Herbert. Now there's a lot of other players you could pick because they're that good. I mean, Bosa, Mack, even Austin Eckler. You could just throwing out names that you could possibly say.
Exactly.
But I'll take a Justin Herbert. And then with Denver, I'm going to go with Russell Wilson. First year in the new system. He's got to build up his relationship with, Cortland Sutton, Jerry Jeudy, things like that. He's got some different weapons around him now. But I think Russ got a lot of hate last year that he didn't necessarily – he broke his thumb. He got a lot of hate last year that I don't think he necessarily earned or, I wouldn't say earned hate, but, he didn't deserve it. You get what I'm saying? I think he was overhated and is better than what people are thinking. So I'm taking Russell Wilson for Denver. Like I said, I think this is the best quarterback division that's ever been assembled in the history of the league. So I'm excited for it. I think it's the best division in football too. So
yeah, definitely. I agree.
Go ahead. But let's hear what you guys have to say.
Yeah, I mean, with the AFC West, I mean, I can't disagree with any of this stuff. Patrick Mahomes, Kansas City. I mean, he's the best quarterback in National Football. You got him or Aaron Rodgers, but I mean, you got to go with Mahomes when it comes to his team. I mean, you got Travis Kelce, like I said. Tyreek Hill's no longer there. Defensively, they have nothing that I would ever put against a guy like Patrick Mahomes, when it comes to same team stuff. So I would agree with that. Devontae Adams, yes. I mean, best receiver in football last 3 years or so. hard to go against. I remember 2020 had 18 touchdowns in 13 games. That's absolutely insane. And that's just one of the many crazy stats of his. Another guy I would also look at that kind of flies under the radar when it comes to signings this year. Chandler Jones from Arizona over to Las Vegas. I know he had 5 sacks last year against the Titans, only ended up with 10 or 12. I mean, he's had some really good seasons, especially, with the Cardinals in the past and the Patriots. Maybe he needs a little revitalizing when it comes to coming to Las Vegas, and he's got Max Crosby on the other side of him. I think Max Crosby has a little, he had 8 sacks last year. I think he's a little too much hype, and I think Max Crosby's a great pass rusher, but I think there's a little too much hype. I think Chandler Jones will end up having the better season. But that's also someone to keep an eye out for. Not saying that he's the best on the team. It's obviously Devontae Adams. Justin Herbert, this is like another 49er situation when it comes to the amount of people that are on this team. Justin Herbert, obviously, as everyone would say, the traits are there. He's a great quarterback. Do not get me wrong. What a hell of a quarterback and ball. Do all the things you can really ask, and very athletic, big arm, all the things that you want in a quarterback. I think Matt mentioned a couple of guys like Bosa. You got Eckler, even Khalil Mack coming over. J.C. Jackson's another one. Big signing this offseason. That could potentially make a bigger name for himself already. He's got a pretty big name as it comes over to Los Angeles. But then in Denver, it's Russ. I mean, Russ coming off of the finger injury last year. The amount of Pro Bowls, the consistent plays had over the last 10 plus years. He still was 25 touchdowns and 6 picks last year. Got a nice core. I don't know if I'm buying the Denver hype entirely. I'll have an interesting take on them when we do our record predictions and divisional breakdowns and all. But I agree with this list. I agree with it overall. Brady, you got any thoughts on Matt's list?
Yeah, I basically agree with every single pick. Patrick Mahomes, obviously. He lied about Mecole Hardman apparently with that one.
Hey, I had to keep everybody interested in the show. They had to keep watching.
You did.
Exactly. Yeah.
They had to think if I was actually going to be that stupid and say it.
It's complete clickbait. But Devontae Adams, best receiver in the NFL the past few years. Just when you just overall great pick. I like to mention Chandler Jones. So my dad's a Titans fan, and he absolutely hates Taylor Lewan. He just thinks and Taylor Lewan gave up 5 sacks to Chandler Jones. That just shows how bad that Taylor Lewan is. Justin Herbert, definitely would go him or Joey Bosa. Either way, can't go wrong. Positional value, for sure, Justin Herbert. You need a franchise quarterback there. Again, big arm, huge arm. Good athleticism as well. And then you go down to Russell Wilson. Again, I agree. Best player on Denver for sure. Very nice deep ball. Great accurate quarterback. And I do think they'll be the worst team in the division, but still. Still should be a good team. It's just they're in such a tough division. I think the other 3 teams are probably top 10 in the NFL. To be quite honest with you.
Yeah, I definitely see all that. And the AFC West, like Matt said, probably the best quarterback assembled division of all time. And it definitely, I'm not really gonna argue it right now, especially when talking about anticipation, the most anticipation behind a quarterback division of all time coming into a season. You expect those guys to perform to the level that they are, then they definitely are going to be. They definitely have a great shot at being the best quarterback division in a season that we've seen ever. I
think there's 3 Hall of Famers in this division. I think Justin Herbert will end up being a Hall of Famer. Mahomes and Russell Wilson are already Hall of Famers.
Yeah.
So and Derek Carr is a very, very good quarterback. So I just don't see how it can't be the best one ever. You have to find me 3 other Hall of Famers in a quarterback division to even argue it. So I'm excited to watch it. It's good every week. Literally, it's going to be a beatdown in this division.
Exactly.
You could pick any team here, Even Denver. I think Denver is a team that a lot of people are like saying that might be the worst, even though they're not really bad. I think you could pick any team to win it, and like you could just make an argument for it, like a legitimate case for every team to win the division. That's how good it is.
Yep. And I would say like when you talk about someone like Denver, like I'll talk when we talk about breakdowns, I'll talk about them in this regard then, but the first couple games of the season are very winnable. So they're obviously going to be like, okay, we need to watch them, we need to watch them on prime time and see if they're really about that, and they have them scheduled for prime time a couple games to start off the season, as they should. So as the NFL knows what they're doing when it comes to schedules, and the NFL knows what they're doing when it comes to battles. Raiders Chargers is week 1. For God's sake. I mean, the week 18 game was absolutely just on crack. All right. And we get a week 1 rematch in Los Angeles.
They should have just took a knee and tied. Both of them made it.
That's not true. I got to tell you why, though.
Why?
They're going to Kansas City if they don't win.
Yeah. I mean,
the
Raiders would. Yeah, the Raiders.
No, I know what you're saying. You're like about them both tying and stuff. But, the Chargers screwed themselves by taking that timeout. But if the Raiders kneel that game, like they were going to let them, then the Raiders go to Kansas City, their first playoff game.
Yeah. So
who cares? Well, I mean, I get it, but like at least they're not risking losing though.
I'm
saying they're not risking losing to the Chargers.
Wait, which team are you talking about? Like that should have are you saying
I'm talking about if they both should just took knees the whole game?
Oh, I thought you meant at the end.
No. I'm saying at the beginning of the game, both knew that if they got in, if they tied, they both made the playoffs, right? Instead of risking losing the game and missing the playoffs, they both should have just took a knee the whole time and tied. Yeah. Seriously, like they both make fucking playoffs.
I mean, they would make the playoffs, but like.
It definitely goes against the integrity of the game.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like fuck it. Or they could have played like the first 3 quarters, and then if it was a tie game going into the fourth or whatever, they'd be like, all right, let's both wave the white flag and say we played fucking 3 quarters. We'll just tie it. We're both going to playoffs. Those
scenarios are funny, man. Those scenarios are like they're crazy to think about. Like they're hilarious to think about and all, And like the thing about it is like. You think about the Chargers in that instance when it was overtime and there was 30 seconds left. Why the hell do you call a timeout?
Right.
Let the clock go. I mean, it wasn't the Raiders calling a timeout. It was the Chargers that called a timeout. People forget about that. It was Brandon Staley that called the timeout.
Yeah,
like they were in position to go to Buffalo and the Raiders go to KC, and both of those. I mean, the Chargers. So think about it. If the Chargers were in a situation to go to Kansas City, they'd feel a lot better. Going to KC since they beat them and they lost them in overtime. The Raiders, on the other hand, got absolutely smacked by them twice. So that's exactly why they didn't do that, because they're like, we're not going to KC in mid-January. We're not doing
the Chargers match up with KC well, so they're not scared. They're not scared.
Not one bit. And the scenario for them was, for the Chargers was, if we lose, we're out, but if we win, we're going to Buffalo. So I mean, it's gonna be bad either way, but hey, we're going to the playoffs. But
we're going to the playoffs. Exactly. That's what you play for. That's what you play the game.
Yeah.
And like playoffs.
Yeah. And in the Raiders scenario was this: we win, we go to Cincinnati, who hasn't won a playoff game in 31 years. We tie, we go to KC. Oh shit, we're gonna get our ass kicked. If we
better fucking win.
Yeah. So that's exactly what they were thinking, and I'm glad they played us. So that's from that standpoint that I just can't wait for the AFC West to play. It's going to be really fun. That game right off the bat. There's going to be a lot of primetime games, a lot of Monday Night Football games. When it comes to that, a lot of great 425 extra games. So can't wait to do that. Divisional breakdowns are coming up soon. We got a lot more episodes coming up, especially in the month of August, and some big time guests coming on, man. I mean, we'll release that information here in the next couple of days and all. And if you guys are watching, make sure you subscribe to the channel and all, because if guys subscribe and, by tomorrow night we get to 100 subscribers, there's a giveaway coming away. So I would keep subscribing, get to 100 and see what happens this year, because who knows? I mean, this was another good episode. Say, I mean, going down the list and all. I think we, it's always fun talking football. Always fun talking football with these guys. You know,
Absolutely.
Yep. Can never
No
go
doubt.
wrong with it. But man, anyone got any final comments before we hop off this thing?
Check us out on Sunday when we get Zach Smith, co-host for Menace to Sports podcast. Chris Drew basically leads the questioning and gets Zach's thoughts out of him. Excited to have him on here Sunday at 1 p.m. I believe.
Yep.
Just ready to get it on. Subscribe, hit that button, get us to 100. We're gonna have a giveaway. We're not gonna say what that is until we hit that 100, but just do it.
Yep.
Brady's ready to get it on, so I'm ready to get it on too.
Yes,
Here we come, baby. We're on them. See you Sunday.
Yep. And if you're all ready, I'm ready too. But yes, Sunday, 1 p.m. Tune in on YouTube. We got Chris Drew coming on to the show. Should be a good one. Obviously one of the hosts that Menace to Sports. So, we already picked Zach's mind. We're gonna pick Chris Drew's mind as well. So, subscribe, set that date on Sunday. We'll make a post about it. And we will see you guys then Sunday, 1 p.m. on YouTube. All right. Guys, have a good night.
We'll see you guys.